So my name is Carine Camara, and I am an acupuncturist, and I'm here to talk about holistic health. And the last time I was here, we specifically talked about depression, so I'm going to kind of allude again to that because a lot of your clients are suffering from depression and post-traumatic stress. So has anyone had acupuncture before? Yeah, a little bit. No?
I remember.
Once?
I'm scared of needles.
Me too.
They're fine. They're very small.
Okay. So acupuncture is part of Chinese medicine. So Chinese medicine actually has 5 aspects. It's acupuncture, there's Tai Chi, which is a movement, there's Qigong, which is a breath work, and then there's also nutrition and herbs. So one aspect of what I do is it's a holistic approach. And of course I don't incorporate Tai Chi and Qigong, but I definitely incorporate breath work and movement. So for movement, it just depends on the person. Like, I consider walking, yoga, anything that involves people being in their body. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about, like the different aspects of a holistic lifestyle. So with depression, I find like acupuncture is one of the best things for depression, or acupuncture is one of the best things for emotional health. I know for me personally, I went through my series of depression, and we all know, does everyone know the signs and symptoms of depression for the most part? No? So most of the signs and symptoms of depression can be having no energy, having a feeling of hopelessness, feeling like nothing's really going to get better, really exhausted all the time, having aches and pains, can't get out of bed, changing a fluctuation of appetite, so people can eat a lot or not eat enough. So pretty much your world is just dark, and no matter what people can do to help you get out of your darkness, you're pretty much stuck in feeling like the world is an awful place and everything's dark. You're pretty much walking around with a dark cloud over your head. And for some people, it's just they have bouts of depression and they're able to get out of it, like if they have a heartbreak or something bad happens to them, but other people are chronically at that state, which would then lead them to get medication because at that point they have a biochemical imbalance. But for people that are just everyday people that are not necessarily at the chronic level, acupuncture is really great for helping them balance their emotions, and we can look at different angles of that. So I'm going to talk about what acupuncture is in general, like the meridian system. So acupuncture is based on this symbol. Has everyone seen this? Right?
Yeah, the yin and the yang.
The yin and yang, right? People get this tattooed on themselves all the time, and when I ask people about it, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's the yin and yang." It's cool.
What does it really mean?
Exactly. I'm like, what does it mean? They're like, it's the yin and yang. That's their answer. So I'm going to break it down to you. So if you ever see this on someone, you can ask them what the yin and yang is. So the white is the yin, the yang. Sorry, the white's the yang, and the black is the yin. So one is in the other, meaning one cannot exist without the other. Yin is the nighttime. It's darkness. It's the moonlight. And it's midnight. It's when the world is at its darkest. It's fluids in your body. The yang is the sun. It's expansion. It's warmth. It's the male energy. Yin is considered the female energy, because females tend to be more receptive and male energy tend to be more expansive. But of course, we all have masculine and feminine inside ourselves, which is why you see these dots. Right, because you can't have masculine without feminine. You can't have feminine without masculine. Right, we all have estrogen and testosterone, just different levels. So the top of it is like considered midnight. So that's the top. That's the most yin that you can be, and then it moves down to yang. So at, let's say 3 a.m., that's considered yin within yang, meaning the sunlight is coming through, and that's kind of representing these circles.
3 a.m.
Yeah. So these are like the in-between, if you can I mean, that's kind of one way of thinking about it. But ultimately, this symbol means all is one, and two things are the same thing. So it's kind of like your head is considered yang, because it's higher, and your feet are considered yin, but on your forehead is considered yang, and your chin is considered yin. So everything is within each other. And that's the basis of the meridian system. So Chinese medicine has all these different meridians that go along the body. And the meridians are not just, and it's not just like in your physical body, but they're also energy that extends outward. I don't know if any of you have heard of auras or those kinds of things where your energy kind of extends. So our energies extends about 7 feet outward, which is amazing, which is why when people walk into the room, you can feel their energy. When people are sad and they're in the corner, even if they don't say anything at all, you can feel that something is wrong with them because of the energy that they're emitting. And that's where acupuncture is probably the most powerful, is acupuncture deals on that level. It's called the etheric level, and that is where acupuncture works. That's where all the meridians lie. So there's 14 meridians, each correspond with an organ and an emotion and a color, and that's where we do our diagnosis. So when somebody says that they're depressed, the first organs that we look at is the liver and the heart. So the heart is in our chest, of course, but it's also the queen of all the emotions. Like all the emotions that we go through our body are affected by the heart. And the liver stores all the emotions. And in a way, physiologically, the liver stores blood. That's what Chinese medicine calls it. It stores the blood. But in Western medicine, it cleanses the blood and detoxifies. And one example is our large intestine. So I don't know if anyone's been constipated or they know people that get constipated. It's very uncomfortable. But one of the things that happens is that all those toxins get built up in your large intestine, and it doesn't go anywhere, so it enters your bloodstream. So now your liver is taking on that extra toxicity that's coming from your large intestine, and it needs to break it down. So when it's breaking it down, all that excess energy is going somewhere else. And where is it going? It's coming out of your body in forms of headaches, allergies, menstrual cramps, and then it affects your emotions like depression and anger. And that's kind of why it's really important to help keep all your meridians and your body in balance, because when one system's off, it really affects the other, and it especially affects the liver, because the liver is the emotions. So all of us are very emotional, and when our emotions are not balanced, the liver is what suffers the most. And my favorite example is driving. We all drive. There's road rage, right? You're in the car and you're like, you're like screaming, you're mad, you're upset, you're like, what the F, and that's, our emotions get heightened.
You were raging at me this morning.
Yeah. People get very, very emotional in cars. And when our emotions get heightened like that, our liver definitely gets affected. So now the liver is rushing all their blood into the nervous system, because the nervous system is governed by the liver energy. And now you have this extreme high, and eventually you have a low. So it's kind of like getting drunk or getting high or doing something that makes your whole body system go really, really high, and then eventually you crash. And that's where the depression and the stress comes in. So you're driving and you get really, really annoyed and angry, and then you get to wherever you're going and you're like, oh, your energy drops, because now your energy was really high and it drops. And those are the kinds of things that acupuncture helps alleviate. It helps alleviate those moments in the car when you normally would get upset, is that you're doing a lot of self-work and self-realization that you don't really get upset anymore. And I think that's one of the really magical parts about acupuncture, is helping you balance your emotions. Does anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay.
Can you do it without acupuncture?
Yes, you can do.
I don't like needles.
Well, the needle part, they're really thin, so they don't really hurt at all. But in terms of, since you're not acupuncturist and you'll be working with people, I brought a book and some tips, because I have some acupressure that you can do with essential oils, or you can do it with your hands. So that's also something that you can do, applying the principles of acupuncture without actually having to use the needles. So we'll go over that in a little bit. Okay, so what else do I want to talk about? So I wanted to read you some studies that they have about acupuncture and depression. So in a random control study, researchers note that acupuncture causes a significant reduction in symptoms of depression in short to medium term that are not associated with severe adverse effects. Meaning that acupuncture is a great way to deal with depression instead of taking medication. Because when you take medication, of course, you have all the side effects of the medication that comes along with it. And one of the things that acupuncture, like I mentioned before, is dealing with diet. So nutrition is a big one. So how many people love sugar? Yeah, everyone loves sugar for the most part. Like, no, me too.
Well, I mean, it's not, I don't know, I noticed certain things in my family, and I don't hate sugar, but it's like, ew, I just know what comes with it, you know,
Yeah.
so I have to moderate. I have to be very moderate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a really important point because sugar is one of those things that triggers a lot of people, and it really creates an imbalance in the body, and it affects your emotions. So sugar, it makes you feel good for a few seconds. You're eating it, you're super happy, but then when you're digesting it, it throws your whole system off. So that's one of the biggest thing I would talk about with your clients is like their diet, if they're eating a lot of sugar. Because if somebody's depressed, sugar is like the worst thing that they can do. It's similar to like alcohol. Alcohol is it's just liquid sugar. So if someone is drinking sugar all the time, it's going to affect how they feel. Their liver's going to be all messed up, and pretty much your whole body gets thrown off balance. So that's the number one thing I would suggest is talking about people on their diet, is eating sugar. And sugar doesn't necessarily mean candy, but also means like breads and pastas, and trying to help people have a more whole grain diet. Instead of eating the white bread, eating whole grains, and instead of rice, brown rice, and trying to steer people away from carbs as much as possible and giving them more greens. Because greens is one of the most important things you can put in your diet. Lots of green food, vegetables, salads, all those things help the liver detoxify and eventually help your emotions as well. So lifestyle. So I know a lot of the age bracket people are not really exercising right. I remember last time we talked, they were saying a lot of people have a hard time.
Right.
Yeah. But one thing I would definitely stress upon is walking. I mean, you can't not necessarily do cardio, but I feel like walking is probably the best thing anyone could do. Even if it's like just walking around the block, walking up and down a flight of stairs, getting fresh air and taking lots of breath works, like breathing outside in the fresh sunlight, because LA is always sunny, which is really grateful. Or, it's really amazing that we have the sunlight, so we can always be outside breathing in energy, because that also helps with your energy level, it also helps your liver, it also helps your overall well-being. And we can go into this part. So I brought some essential oils. I'm not sure if anyone's really, are you familiar with essential oils? So this one's called Clarisage, and the most common one is like lavender. Lavender is a calming one, it helps bring you into your body. Rose is a good one, it helps you bring it to your heart. I bought Clarisage because this was in my pantry, but Clarisage is a good one because it helps with post-traumatic stress. So it's something that, like, if you have a memory that's like haunting you and you feel like you can't get over it, and I feel like a lot of people that are depressed are they're kind of spiraling in circles, that you can take something of these, and any essential oil. I think lavender is probably the most common to get. And you could take it here on your finger. And one of the really good anger points is right here in the middle of your forehead. And you can press it here and then on top of your head. So you can ask people to put essential oil, or you don't have to do the oils. You can just kind of have people sit like this and take 3 deep breaths and just breathing. Because that helps people get into their bodies and more relaxed. And essential oils also has the aroma, which goes into a different part of your brain that kind of relaxes you. This one doesn't really smell super sweet. It doesn't smell like lavender or any rose where you're like, ah, but it's good for trauma.
So is it, I know you stated that it doesn't really have a smell.
You can
So
smell
is it the smell or is it the chemical, whatever it is that's in
It's
the
both.
oil?
It's both. But this doesn't have a smell like rose or something. You know how like when you smell rose, you're like, ah. Yeah. It doesn't have that kind of smell. Yeah, this one doesn't have, but this one's more for therapeutic. Because it's for post-traumatic stress, and that's why I got it, because I was trying it, because there's a whole school of thought about different oils. See, it doesn't really say, yeah, it doesn't. This one wouldn't be for like, oh, I want to smell good. It'd be for therapeutic reasons that you use something like this. You're like, no.
It smells
my God,
chocolatey and woody.
Yeah, it does.
Cocoa and woody.
I like it.
Yeah.
No.
But sometimes actually, you know, I had a meeting with a aromatherapist, and she was saying that the smells that you have the most aversion to are probably the ones you need the most. Yeah.
Just like food.
Exactly.
You hate the most.
Yeah.
The best ones for you.
But that's so we can all try these points, because these points are pretty easy. It's like the top of your head, and you can feel there's like an indentation there in the top of your head. Most of you. So if you think about like your ears. Kind of like in the middle, so it's like right here. You feel that indentation?
Yep. It kind of goes flat.
Yeah, it goes a little flat.
I feel the flat.
Yeah, I feel my
Yeah.
flat.
You feel your flat?
I have a
That's
lot
when,
of
when you're a
flat.
baby. That's
Uh-huh.
that part that's supposed to come out. When
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
a certain age.
But I don't feel like mine did.
Yeah. So then those are the points that you can just kind of hold and then take deep breaths into your belly. And then exhale. And inhale again. And exhale. So this is something really simple that you can show your clients to help them calm down. Another one that's a fun one is behind your ear. Right, if you hold the back of your ears and then pull your ears down, it helps. Also, it's very sedative if people are having like panic attacks, kind of thing. You can massage that. You can do self massage in your ears, and that helps bring people down, their energy down. And another one that I use often is the one in the middle of the chest. It's called Ren 17. And when people are having like heart issues where they're not connecting to the heart, that's another one that you can press. And also use a lot of oils too. Like rose, lavender, chamomile, all these essential oils. Or you can use also coconut oil, or you don't have to use oils, but oils kind of create a kind of like a ritual, and you can smell something and it kind of takes you outside your body.
So there's no point to doing this. There's nothing.
This one,
in doing this. Like,
this point is more for like anger.
Okay.
Like you're upset. This is the gallbladder meridian, so it's definitely an anger point. Though I wouldn't really use that. I mean, you can use it, but it's not. Where's my list of points? Anger points are more for. My anger points are this one and this one more.
Okay.
Because the thing about acupuncture, it's kind of almost counterintuitive. Like when you want to treat something, you don't necessarily go to the meridian exactly. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So you kind of do whatever works. Like you can try that. If you're like, okay, that's not really working, try this one. These two will brings 99% of people calm down, because that's what those points are made to do. They're made to calm you down. I needle almost everyone. When I walk through, I needle. Everyone gets this point.
Wait, you said you needle?
Yeah.
So you put a needle here?
Yeah.
They're really small.
Yeah.
Really
And
tiny.
unless it's a butterfly needle.
Really tiny.
It's really small.
It's way smaller.
Really
Smaller than a butterfly
Way
needle?
smaller.
Oh, okay.
Way
You
like
just feel like a
a
hit.
little, okay.
Like a tap,
Yeah.
I would say.
and the face points are nice too, because they also act as a facial rejuvenation point.
Okay.
So you're kind of getting a natural Botox as well as calming.
Okay, that's an incentive.
I know most women love that. They're like, I can look younger and calm down. Yes. So that's kind of the thing that you can bring to your clients when you're talking to them about ways that they can help with their depression. So it's really acupressure. And there's also, there's like hundreds of points. There's points in your hand that they can press to. This is a nausea point that most people know of when you're nauseous. A lot of pregnant women have the magnet if you're on a boat, something like that. But it's also the heart meridian, so you can massage all in here, especially like the sides of your wrist. If you're feeling, it's a heart point as well. So this is the heart and this is the pericardium, and the pericardium is the meridian that goes around the heart. So it's the protective part of the heart. So in Chinese medicine, the pericardium is kind of where all the emotions hit first, and once it penetrates the pericardium, then it goes into our heart. But sometimes things get stuck there, so that's a really good area to really push stuff out. Otherwise, it goes in. That would mean, for instance, if you had a shock, like I always say romantic ones because people recognize those the most, but like if you just broke up with your boyfriend, or your girlfriend, your pericardium would be the first thing that would hit. And that's when you would get, I can't eat, I'm nauseous, or I'm eating too much, like you feel like your insides are turning. And then eventually it just goes into that, like, either goes into the grief phase or the bitter phase or whatever. But the pericardium is the triage, and then it moves into the next place, if that makes sense.
So that's when you would start massaging this area.
Yeah. So like traumatic things that just happened.
Okay.
That's
Before it gets into your heart.
Yeah. Does that make sense? It's something that just happens. You're like, okay.
That's good.
Yeah, so that's a really good way of really mediating yourself too, because I feel like why I love acupressure, and this is a really good book actually. It's called Acupressure for Emotional Healing, and it gives you all sorts of different different things that people go through. There's this whole part about sexual trauma, grief and phobias, guilt, stress, shame. And why I love acupuncture is great, but that means you have to come see me, right? I'm all about empowering people to really take the information and take it home and use it on their day-to-day basis without actually having to come get a session. What I provide is education and telling you how you can use the skills that you already have, your diet, exercising, the way you think, and also incorporating Chinese medicine in your life without actually having to go get needled. And some people don't like needles, so that that's also that too. But this is a really good book. I would consider purchasing it, or you're free to look at it and to get an idea, because then you could, if you had a client that had a certain issue, that you can flip through the book and it will show you different techniques that you can use. And all the techniques that you can use in the book, you can apply essential oils to. You can have people drink tea. Tea's a really good one. Just having people drink calming tea, relaxing tea. Anything that brings people back into their body is effective. And that's pretty much the biggest thing about acupressure. Acupuncture in general is all about bringing people's energy back into their body. Because most people's energies are outward. They're outward because they're more concerned about other people, what other people think about them. And acupuncture energy is about bringing you inside yourself so you can start to understand where your energy is going in your body. Because a lot of us have all sorts of traumas and they go into certain aspects of our body. And it's helping people understand where it goes into your body so that you can release it. And releasing all that toxic energy is going to keep you young, vibrant, keep you wanting to connect with other people because you're not as traumatized. If that makes sense. Any questions so far?
How long are the sessions normally?
Acupuncture sessions depend on the practitioner. Mine are about 75 minutes for follow-ups and about 2 hours for the first one. So what we do is we talk about your whole life essentially, like how your childhood was, your diet, any kind of medical history. And for the most part, I talk to people about their health goals. Like, what do you want to happen? Like, what are you seeking? And we kind of create a plan. Like, okay, if you want to be happier in your life, or you feel like you have a constant chronic pain, or you want to move forward in your career, whatever it is. And we look at it from a holistic standpoint. Like, how could we work on your diet? How could we work on your relationships? And that kind of thing. And then I give them acupressure. Usually I do acupuncture on the back first and have them on their stomach, and that's about 40 minutes, and then I flip them over and do a front treatment, and that's about 20, and then they usually go. Most people are pretty sedated and super relaxing, so it's one of those things, like it's like a deep massage or a meditation session. It really puts you in this altered state, a trance state, which is great, because when you're in a trance state, that's when your body can really do a lot of healing, because our bodies have an amazing capacity to heal, especially on a subconscious level. So it's just tapping into your body to say, okay, you need to go here, you need to do this, and your body responds really quickly, and you can actually do a lot of self-healing, just guiding your body in the right direction. Yeah.
And how much do the sessions normally cost?
The initial ones are $170, and the follow-ups are $85. And that's why I think it's really important to show people how they could do it on their own, essentially. Because acupressure, that's why I love acupressure, because it's really just you taking the time and just healing yourself, and it's not always dependent on someone else. Because then it could be affordable, and it could also be something that you share with others as well.
What's the difference between acupressure and reflexology?
Reflexology is an offshoot of acupressure, so it's just on the feet.
Okay.
So acupuncture, one of the theories about Chinese medicine, that every part of our body has all the meridians and channels located in that aspect. Like the hands. Like the whole hands is the whole entire body. Like the feet, the head is considered here, and then you can move to all the different organs in the hand. The same with the ear. So the ear is like, if you think of a fetus, like kind of curled up, the bottom is the head, and then it kind of curls up like that. So you could treat the whole entire body on the ears alone. Like a lot of addiction, a lot of addiction and a lot of detox, this is just the ears. You just come in and get ear points. So the same with the feet can be said. So the bottom of the feet has the whole entire body. So reflexology is pretty much just acupressure on certain aspects of your body, on the bottom of your feet. But you can do reflexology on your hands, you can do it on your ears. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of Korean acupuncture is just based on the hands and feet. They just needle you from here to here because their whole body is just, everything's on here. They don't do any
No back.
Needle you. Every time she says that, I'm just like.
You know, it's so funny. Like when I was in acupuncture, I worked at an acupuncture school as an office manager, and at this time I was thinking about what I wanted to do. I just graduated out of college, and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? I knew I wanted to be in the holistic field, but wasn't sure. And I was going to cooking school, and I thought I was going to become a personal chef. And I remember walking through the hall one day, and one of the guys there was like, oh, you should join acupuncture school. You should come to, you do acupuncture. And I looked at him like he had 4 heads. I was like, what do you mean? What you mean acupuncture? I was like, I don't like needles. Like, I was like, no way. I was like, there's no way. I was like, not for me. Like, literally if a doctor walked into the room, I had already started crying. Like, if I have to get a shot today, I will start bawling. That's how much I hate needles. And then I had a ovarian cyst that possibly needed surgery. And the idea of getting cut or getting acupuncture needles, I was like, okay, let me go get some treatments and see what happens. And after 2 months of getting acupuncture session and herbs, my cyst dissolved and I didn't have to get surgery. Wow. So for me, I was like, I totally believe in the power of the medicine, and it's so much less painful than the idea of getting surgery. And the needles are not the same. Especially the way I needle, I'm a very gentle needler, and there's different types of needlers. So if you're someone that doesn't like acupuncture and needles, always look for a Japanese style acupuncturist. Because Japanese don't like pain at all. Like, so the Japanese, their needles actually have silicone at the tip, so they're made to be painless. And they're very, very thin. And the way that they needle, they just put the needles in. That's the way I needle. They just put the needle in and they walk away. So it almost doesn't feel like anything. But the energy's still moving, because acupuncture, the energy is so subtle that you don't actually have to do a lot of manipulation. But then the Koreans are a little bit more painful because they needle on the tips of the fingers, which is like all your nerve endings. But it's really effective as well. The Chinese, they're intense. Like the needles go in and they do all sorts of things, which I never do because I think it's painful, and I never go to Chinese acupuncturists ever. So that was the one thing I would say. If you're scared of needles, just don't go to a Chinese person. Not that they're all going to be painful, but that's how we're trained. We're trained to be no pain, no gain. And it's not necessarily painful like the way you think, it's just intense.
So. I remember one time I got something, and I feel like a needle was here, and even though it's really small, I guess, I'm not sure what this is. Is this the intestine?
Yeah, this is a lung point.
Okay.
So.
Well, like I remember the needle not really even being in. Like he was just touching the area and it was so sensitive. But like when the needle was in there, like when he would take it out, it's not like you feel like they're pulling a needle out of you. Like it's so like minor, but like it's interesting. Yeah. Like the pain that you feel, it's not from the needle. It's from something else.
It's energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the energy. That's probably the most intense aspect of the medicine is the energy, moving the energy. And so when people put in needles and they start manipulating, they're manipulating the energy, and that can be really intense.
The only one I had felt was one on my foot, like the side of my foot. It's the only one I felt out of all of them. So.
How, when you say felt, like felt the pain?
It didn't really feel like a pain though.
Okay.
It just,
I could just
sensation.
Yeah, it was
okay.
a sensation.
Yeah. It's almost like a mosquito bite.
Yeah.
Flies at you. I know, it's hard. It's something that's not natural. Now to me it seems like, oh yeah, needle, it's no big deal. But I totally understand, because for me I was like, there's no way. Even today, even as an acupuncturist, like I am so picky about letting people needle me for the same reason, because it's usually like, I'm like, no, I'm good. Until I know they're gentle needlers. So that's one of the things, I feel like it's really, really effective medicine, because it's one of the only forms of alternative medicine out there that deals with the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical bodies all at the same time. Like most times, if you go to a psychologist, you're just doing talk therapy, but you're not really affecting your energetic print, because most of us have it in our cells. Like whatever we're going through, it's in our biological, it's in our cells, and it's really trying to affect that angle that really the true healing happens. Because you could talk about something till forever. but it's never going to really change if it's still in your energy and still in your body. And that's why I feel like acupuncture is the most powerful, because it can tap into those places without you even having the conversation. Because a lot of times I've been able to release a lot of traumas that I've had through acupuncture sessions without talking about it at all with my acupuncturist. We may have mentioned it, like, oh yeah, I'm going through this. Like, I remember when I was going through a breakup before I moved to California, and I just mentioned to my acupuncturist, oh yeah, I'm breaking up my boyfriend, I'm moving to California. And I had this insane session. Like, afterwards, it was like 20 pounds that got lifted off my chest, and I was like, oh my God, I'm moving, it's over, I'm great. Like, but we didn't actually have a discussion about it. We never talked about it. And so for me, it's a way more powerful way of dealing with emotions, because you don't have to sit there and break it down. And some people like that. Some people love talk therapy, and I think it's really effective, but I feel like acupuncture can be a lot more efficient, especially when you're talking about deep, deep traumas that most people don't necessarily want to talk about. Not everyone is going to want to talk about getting abused or something when they were children. They themselves are not even comfortable within themselves to talk about it, but acupuncture is one of those medicines that it could really deal with that without actually people expressing it. And they can help release it through their body, which is why I think it's so powerful, especially when it comes to emotional health. Yeah. Any more questions?
You should pass out your business card.
Oh yeah.
I need Larry on my team. I'm telling you. Well, you are on my team.
He's a promoter.
You are on my team.
Yeah.
Do you work out of an office or from home?
I work. I do my work, like my administrative stuff at home, and I work out of an office in Marina Del Rey. But I'm looking to move. I think I am looking to move to West Hollywood area, like having a practice out here, just because it's more central. I've been noticing that LA.
Move to Culver City.
That's still not central enough.
Oh, it is.
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah, to Beverly Hills, downtown.
Yeah, I'll get.
Century City.
I don't know.
Hollywood or
I
Glendale.
said-
I won't get
Century-
Hollywood.
Yeah, or Glendale.
Or
Robertson areas.
Or I won't get
like
downtown.
Beverly.
Because I feel like whenever I'm in West Hollywood and I'm here, like going to a networking event, people, when I talk to people, they're like, oh yeah, I live downtown, or I live in Venice. And I feel like it's a very central location in terms of different parts of LA. Where I'm at in the Marina, I could only get people from the west side. Like, no one from out here.
I said Miracle Mile
Miracle Mine's a good
was
one
more
too.
central
Yeah,
than West Hollywood.
yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, because then people from Beverly Hills don't, when I meet people from downtown, they look at me like, oh, where do you live? No.
It's too far.
It's too far, and I don't blame them. Like, I have a friend, she lives downtown, I see her once a year. I'm just like, girl.
Oh my God.
Well, I don't see her that. I see her more than that, but like when she moved there, I was like, girl.
Bye.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's like, how do you really have no option but to do 405 to the 10 to the 110 or take the street? And I mean, yeah.
Are you near Costco?
Yes, like 3 blocks.
Maxella,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maxella, Washington.
Yeah, I live like really close to there. That's why it's convenient for me. But it's not convenient for the totality of LA. Like, I can't imagine living anywhere else because I love the air out there and it's cool.
Yeah.
But I think for business, since I've only been here 2 years, so
Where are you from?
I'm originally from New York City, but I was living in the Bay Area. Yeah,
Oh, you moved from the Bay.
East Bay or Frisco?
I was living in Marin. So I was living in San Francisco for about 3 years, and then I moved up to Marin.
We're in New York.
Hell's Kitchen by Times Square.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you end up in LA?
Really? I feel like LA and New York are so similar.
Interesting. I used to live in New York and I hated it. And I think LA is very different from New York.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a city vibe. I feel like why I say it's similar is because people are doing stuff here. In LA, New York, people are like, they have that hustle. They're trying to move their life forward. And San Francisco is more of like, either you have it or you don't.
I like Sausalito.
Salsa is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the LA, the hustle here. People are just on their entrepreneur grind. Partially because it's all entrepreneurs mostly. A lot of actors, entertainment people. But in general, I like LA a lot.
So what do you have your master's of science in?
It's in Masters of Oriental Medicine. Yes, it's a 4-year program, and we do all the acupuncture points and the herbs and the formulas, internal medicine, Western medicine, and we have our clinical rounds and stuff.
Where's that school located?
Potrero Hill, San Francisco.
Oh, I'm sure they have one down
Yeah,
here.
they do. They have Emperors in Santa Monica. They have Yosan that's in Culver City, and then they have I think they have Samara or something downtown.
Did you ever hear of a place called Happy Feet?
It's a salon? Like a nail salon?
No,
Oh.
it's a massage place.
Oh.
And after doing that workout with the
You went there?
with the young folks at Monday morning,
Uh-huh.
oh man, my daughter's living next door suggested getting a massage, and she had been to this place, so I went there. It just made me worse.
Oh.
It was so
Yeah.
hard.
What was it, Thai massage? You know what
It's probably
Thai
Tai
massage?
Chi. I mean, it's probably it's probably
I
a
don't
tween.
know, but it was very reasonable, like $25 for an hour
Okay.
or something.
Yeah, no pain, no gain.
But as far as the feet go, all they did was like hit them. But most of the work was on the upper body and back and all that. And it would have been great if my neck hadn't been so sore. And I told the, I guess I made a mistake. I told the fella, oh, I got a sore neck. And he just made it worse.
Oh, you have to tell them, go real soft, you know.
Yeah, that's the way we're trained though. I mean, Tuina is a form of Chinese massage, and it's
They were Asian of some kind, maybe Thai. Yeah.
And this was in Culver City?
Yeah.
Is this the one across from the 99-cent store upstairs?
You're like mental note.
No, because I went to one and I was just, she had like one leg here and one
Yeah.
had here, and I was just like,
That's
the whole
That's time.
time
That's
I
time
couldn't even
massage.
breathe.
That's time.
This
And
is
she
on
jumped on
Washington.
top.
Yeah, that's what they
It was just
do.
like, I was
It's
like,
on Washington
That's
Boulevard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
I've never did.
Yeah, it was, I mean, literally, like, I had to hold my breath. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it was like $25 for the hour. That's why I was like, is this the same spot?
Well, those places are really, I mean, it's all about moving energy, so that's why it's so intense, because they're just really breaking in
Okay.
to the meridians. And I think for some people it's really effective, because a lot of people are very stuck. Their energies are very, very stuck, so they need that kind of harsh breaking it up. And other people don't need it. Like some people just need a little soft, gentle tweak here and there. Since I'm more of a gentle person, I tend to have gentle clients, because that kind of thing I just wouldn't even. I think I took one or two classes, and I was like, I think I figured out, I found the really, really skinny girl in my class, and I paired with her. Because she's not gonna, because she was late. But yeah, at that class, the teacher he did a demonstration on me, and I was like, I'm good. Yeah. But it's effective, it really is. I have a friend of mine who does acupuncture as well, and he does traditional Chinese medicine, where he does the needling, and like they do in China. He lived in China for 3 years, and it's effective for people. But I feel like for me, that's really for like sports medicine. Like if you have a physical ailment, like your back hurts, your neck hurts, something, the acupuncture that's more intense is actually is beneficial for that muscle sports injury kind of thing. And it tends to be very painful, because if your body's in pain, then whatever you do is going to be painful. Like if you have a headache, right, and somebody hits you, it's like, ah! Not because they hit you hard, it's because you have a headache and your body's already sensitive. So I don't necessarily do sports medicine. I'm pretty much an expert on emotional, spiritual stuff in terms of acupuncture and energy work. So I deal with people that are dealing with more with stress, anxiety, they feel stuck in their life, they're overwhelmed, they're suffering from grief, they want to bring more joy, more love into their lives, or they have addiction problems like attachment issues with people, codependency, those kinds of things. So when people come to me with those physical ailments, I usually kind of refer them out, because that's not the kind of work I do. So if you're coming to me with back pain, my first question would be like, do you have enough support in your life? Do you feel supported? Do you feel loved? Do you feel like people are there for you? Because when your back goes out, that usually tends to mean that you don't have support in your life. like you don't feel supported. So your back, energetically, the meridians that go along the back is called the urinary bladder. And that's the first meridian that, because we had, you know, I said there's 14, but the first one is the tai yang, which is the urinary bladder in the back. And that's where all the energy hits you first, and then it goes into your body. So when you don't feel supported, that's meridian doesn't have any, is not protecting your body anymore. And that's when things could affect you. Like when you get when you feel sick and you get that like back, your neck, back of your head hurts, and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm getting sick, and your neck feels all stiff. That means your tai yang channel was a little exposed somehow, some way. And stress is usually an indicator of people getting sick a lot, right? When you're stressed, your body is off balance, and you tend to get a cold, flu, etc. So those are the kinds of things I would ask if people are coming to me with back pain. And I get a lot of men, I feel like a lot of the men I get are always, almost 95% is because they have back pain. And it's usually because they're the sole provider for their family, they're taking care of the household, and they have nowhere to go in terms of emotional support. Because a lot of men don't necessarily have a venue of being able to talk about what's happening in their heart or their mind. So their back goes out, and then they come see me. And then we have these kinds of, we don't always have these kinds of conversations. I feel like I talk a little bit about it, and some people are open to it, and some people are kind of like nod and smile. But then they feel better, so then they come back. But it's not always something that people want to share. So that's kind of the different types of acupuncture there is. There's a lot of variances in terms of what you can do with acupuncture. It's a very broad scope of practice, and most of us have a specific point of reference where we kind of focus on. Like for me, it's the emotions. Other people, like my friend, it's pretty much physical elements like sports injuries and those kinds of things. And then there's also, if people want to get pregnant, there's reproductive help. I also work with pregnant women, but if women are trying to get pregnant, acupuncture is wonderful for helping your body get into balance so you can carry a baby. And then there's also working with people. There's a whole geriatrics thing that I have never done, but there's a whole specialty as well, working with people that are at a certain age bracket. So, and there's pediatrics. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do the medicine. But ultimately, the bottom line is all about creating a sense of balance in the body.
Do you have something, instead of vasectomy, do you have something that is like that?
No.
No.
No. I mean, there's intention, but that's not a foolproof.
Meaning what, like to make someone less, like to make someone impotent?
Oh, not impotent, but so they
Fertile.
wouldn't have a child. So they
No.
couldn't have
Okay.
a child.
Yeah.
Cause that would be kind of off balance.
Surgical.
I mean, you have to get surgery.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's vasectomy, but I was thinking maybe Oriental medicine had something comparable.
No. Because acupuncture doesn't really do anything that's going to go into the body and change it. But there's a whole thing in India. There's this new, they've been doing it for India for 10 years where they insert these, I think they're implants, and they stay in the body for 10 years, and it creates...
Well, that reminds me of what's been in the news lately about all those ladies that died when they went to this particular doctor, and I forget how many he did in a day, but the ladies get paid so much money to have birth control because India is the second most populated country, and I think about 15 of them died, and there's like maybe 30 that are still hospitalized.
Yeah. It's intense. Birth
What is
control's
it
a
that
big deal.
happened? They removed they got a hysterectomy?
I think
I don't know what the doctor did, but
Yeah.
he did a lot of them in one day, so it couldn't have taken too long. I thought maybe it was some kind of acupuncture procedure.
No. In India, there was this whole controversy because a lot of women were going for what they thought were regular checkups, and they were actually, the doctor was doing a hysterectomy.
Oh, okay.
That sounds like that's.
And then so these women, and it's not, of course, it's not surgically always as clean and sterile as it needs to be, and then women are getting infections, and also it's just like you're taking away their organs without them asking.
Yeah.
So that was the big controversy. They were forcibly sterilizing women.
Well, this was voluntary.
Well, it was a myth. They were volunteering, but they didn't know what they were volunteering
Kinda
for.
like,
They thought they were going. They thought they were going for like a regular
Birth
routine check.
control.
Yeah, and then they just took away everything.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? Because instead of giving you
Uh-huh.
like an IUD or something, they just take away your whole organs.
Oh, I
So
see.
you can't have kids ever. And for most women, that would be like hell.
Devastating.
Yeah, especially if you want to have kids, right? And also taking a hysterectomy, it's not even just about the birth now. Now you're taking away all the hormonal. So now you're putting women in menopause essentially, because now you don't have any organs to produce the hormones that you need, and then you start aging very, very quickly because now you don't have, your hormone levels are off.
When you say aging very quickly, how does that manifest itself?
Well, when your estrogen and testosterone levels start to drop as you age, hormone levels kind of keep you young. Estrogen and testosterone keep you young at a certain point. That's why when you're really young, you have so much, and then as you get older, it kind of fizzles down to a manageable
your
point.
muscle, I would think too. Maybe your muscle mass changes
That's
as
true
your
too.
hormones change.
It does, yeah. And your secretions, your mental health. I mean, our whole bodies are dictated by our hormonal balance. So when something's off, like women, we get more testosterone as we age, and our estrogen levels drop, and then men have the opposite. So as they age, their estrogen levels increase and their testosterone decreases. So that's why women, when they have menopause, you know how a lot of women have a second career, they have all this energy and all this vigor. It's because they have more testosterone in their system now. They don't have any more kids. They're like, ooh, I'm ready to go. And then men have the opposite. They're like chilling. They're like, okay, everything's cool. They get more feminine. They're like, all right.
Yeah. Then you have to deal with the heater and the air conditioner on at the same time.
Yeah.
They're PMSing.
Yeah.
Now you're PMSing.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's the yin and yang. Like we all have each other, we all have the same things, but then it kind of has a different cycle, which is, I always think is kind of fascinating. Because women, we have this, it's just as we age, we just become more and more, we have more of that type A personality, of that vigor, which when I was younger I didn't have, right? So as I get older, I'm like, oh wow, that's true. Testosterone does get stronger. Because every year I'm like, wow, it's amazing. Whereas, yeah, right? And men have the opposite, and I'm almost like, that's kind of God's little funny trick. Like, where do you meet in the middle? Like, what age? I think it's the 40s. I think that's my estimate. It's like the late 30s, early 40s. I feel like that's where they kind of mix, kind of mesh in terms of we're almost at the same level.
Makes sense.
Right? I don't know. It's my hypothesis. We'll see what happens when I'm in my 40s. Any other questions?